shelling of local residential buildings.
There were two separate strikes. The very first strike hit directly on the front facade of the house.
Attacks on critical infrastructure facilities.
In Ukraine, there is not a single major power plant left that hasn't been hit and damaged by the enemy during this war.
A war against children, the elderly, and people with disabilities.
We were attacked by evil forces. They strike at ordinary people, killing children and the elderly.
And all of this in the bitter cold.
Russia planned the deliberate shelling, planned it for a long time, carefully, and waited until the cold was at its absolute harshest to freeze the city and bring it to catastrophe.
In a desperate attempt to avoid a military defeat, Russia is freezing Ukrainian cities. Watch more about this in our special report. Murder by cold. How Putin is trying to break Ukraine through terror against unarmed people. Ukraine's capital city is becoming unfit for life after its futile attempts to take Kyiv in just 3 days back in 2022. By the fourth year of this full-scale war, the Kremlin chose the most cynical method possible. It significantly intensified the shelling of critical energy infrastructure and residential buildings. In the dead of winter, during the freezing cold, when temperatures dropped to nearly minus 20 degrees Celsius. Drones, ballistic and cruise missiles targeting residential buildings and energy facilities. Another night of survival after a massive Russian bombardment in Kyiv. With cold-blooded cruelty, Putin's army is trying to deprive the capital's residents not just of the comforts of civilization, but of the very basics of existence. The timing is no accident precisely when severe frosts are raging in Ukraine. Blackened walls and ceiling. Not long ago, this was a cozy family home. Today, the apartment is uninhabitable. These are the consequences of a Russian drone strike on one of Kyiv's apartment buildings. January 9th, 2026.
There were two strikes. The very first strike hit directly on the main facade of the building. When the fire started and I realized I needed to get out, I quickly got dressed and went downstairs, grabbed some important documents, and then saw how the firefighters were already actively putting out the fire. The emergency ambulances arrived shortly after.
After extinguishing the fire, the rescuers and medics waited out the alert in a shelter. But then a call came in from another district of Kyiv, which had also been hit by the attack, Maria recalls.
They left the shelter. I thought about it and decided to follow them. They went a little ahead, about 100 meters. And I heard the drone flying, already diving down from the sky. I realized I shouldn't push my luck any further and ran back into the parking garage. I survived. After that, I ran out again. A minute later, I followed after them and saw what happened here. Right here on this particular stretch of road, two severely wounded emergency rescuers were lying on the ground.
One of them later died in the hospital. Doctors are still fighting for the life of the second. That same day, a paramedic who had come to help the injured residents of the building also died.
His body is still lying here. This is our spontaneous micro-memorial. A person quietly brings fresh flowers and places them where his hat lies, right next to it. The official hat of our municipal medical service worker.
The residents of the building, who had not yet recovered from the shock they experienced, faced a new ordeal. The broken windows let in drafts. There was no heating in the building.
And within about a week, the temperature in the apartment dropped from plus 18, plus 19 to plus 12 degrees. That was the critical point when I started thinking that maybe I would have to leave the apartment. But fortunately, our homeowners association somehow worked its magic, conjured something up. And now our heating works around the clock. The temperature is now up to 15, 16 degrees. That's just night and day.
Oksana's family, with her 2-year-old daughter, a temperature of 15 degrees would most likely have forced them to leave Kyiv.
17 or 16 degrees, it turns out, is a huge difference. It seems like just 1 degree, but we could feel that the furniture and the floor had cooled down.
Modern loungewear and indoor clothing now resemble specialized equipment for winter sports.
This is special zoned thermal underwear. On top, a fleece jacket, fleece-lined pants. I even have special zoned socks. Skiers use them.
My daughter is wearing the same thermal set.
She is wearing just 2 layers of clothing because she has fleece-lined thermal underwear and a fleece jumpsuit, wool socks, and right underneath those, thin cotton ones. Again, the secret is really all about layering and of course slippers with soles because the floor can cool down very quickly.
After yet another massive winter shelling, little Katya is forced to sleep in a sleeping bag to stay warm.
It zips up completely, and right here you can tighten it so you can easily make it into a kind of cozy nest. She sleeps either in warm fleece pajamas or thermal underwear, but even without any socks. She stretches out like a starfish in that sleeping bag. There was a time when the temperature rose to plus 17 degrees and she got hot.
Oksana is originally from Donetsk. For her, the war began back in 2014. So from the moment of the full-scale invasion, the family prepared for different scenarios, gradually buying everything necessary just in case.
We have a large charging station and a small one. We usually use this one for lamps and children's nightlights. So it's portable, very light, like a handbag. Right now, both the tablet and the lamp are charging because for once we actually have electricity. And this is the large station. It keeps the refrigerator running for quite a long time. Laptops too if my husband is working from home. It can handle a hairdryer and a steamer. Since we have a small child, we sometimes cook with it.
We also bought a small portable gas stove, just in case.
We haven't used it yet. We tested it to make sure everything works fine. A gas canister connects here. We have several of them.
Gas is a real lifesaver for Tatiana and her family. There was a strike nearby and the heat supply stopped. In
the room we're in, it's about 6 to 7 degrees Celsius. The room is also above the entrance, which isn't heated because the windows are broken. Most of the cold comes from the walls and the floor. Not far from here, literally across the street, there was a strike. The building shook hard and the windows were blown out.
the eclectic mix of clothing and apartment decor is out of necessity. It's a way to somehow survive in the icy hell created by the enemy.
We dress up, we've put on everything we possibly can. Fur coats, blankets, rugs. We're all in one room, keeping warm however we can. This is also my great-grandmother's mohair hat, the one that made it through the war, my dear grandma. I even sleep in this hat.
But what Tatiana worries about most are her beloved pets, whom she once rescued and took in.
There is also some extra clothing kept here for warmth, specifically for the cats. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of them are cotton warm blankets. And that's how it is with all the animals. Yes, they're all strays, all rescues that I have.
Tatiana inherited the apartment from her grandmother and grandfather. It's a building from Soviet times. Many of the neighbors are pensioners.
All these houses, the old-timers, they're pensioners, grandmothers, people who have trouble walking. That is, without an elevator, without electricity, they can't even get down to the heating station. Whose pipes have burst and water is flowing in this kind of freezing weather. I'm telling you, I get goosebumps, I can't even imagine it. It's impossible to survive in such conditions.
Another war crime, and such of a genocidal nature. In general, of course, this is a fight against the most vulnerable, against the elderly who live on the upper floors and can't go down, because for some grandmother, climbing back up to, say, the 21st floor is already an impossible task.
After yet another massive shelling, veteran Oleg Alefir's apartment also lost its heating. Disability, top floor, and the building runs entirely on electricity. The power is turned on rarely and only for a couple of hours.
They've started turning on the electricity less often. 2 or 3 days ago, over a 2-day period, we had electricity just once for an hour. But you always want to eat, and everything here runs on electricity. And you also need to go down to the store. Right now, a social worker has come to see us. She brought what she bought, a bottle of water. We bake water, bread. And she herself, as they say, carried it all on her own back up to the 11th floor.
Nina Vasilyevna is the concierge of this building.
So many layers of clothing, like a cabbage. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 sweaters and 2 t-shirts. And a jacket. It's so cold at home. 3 blankets, a jacket on top like this. And we sleep. Everyone sleeps. The whole building sleeps like this.
In some apartments, the temperature was below 0. In
one apartment, it was 4 degrees. In another 6, in a third 7. And on the 6th floor, it was -1. to...
Moreover, according to Nina Vasilievna, the route of enemy missiles and drones passes through their neighborhood.
You can hear it, the drones are flying this way. We see them, we see everything. I live on the 13th floor, so I can see everything. The whole sky is full of stars. And then we rush downstairs. But what can we do? Some evil force has attacked us. They strike at ordinary people, kill children and the elderly. You can't even survive the cold anymore.
Larisa Petrovna invites us into her ice-cold apartment.
Do you see what I'm wearing? In a padded jacket, fully dressed with shoes on and a headscarf.
A resilient elderly woman evacuated to Kyiv. With her son from Myrnorod in the Donetsk region after their family's private home was completely destroyed by Russian troops.
We were escaping because Putin destroyed us. He destroyed our home, our house, our estate. He destroyed everything for us, the puppies. He destroyed it all. I lost everything. Everything burned down, all my clothes. We just grabbed a few things when the shooting started. We rushed to pack our things and then glass started flying into my eyes. We grabbed whatever we could.
As if it wasn't difficult enough already for a pensioner to get settled into a new place, Putin reached her even here.
Everyone got electricity in the morning.
The power was on. I wanted to boil some water and make my son coffee before he goes to work. Once it boiled, the power was cut off and it's still not back.
Larisa Petrovna worked her whole life in the mine. That's where the uniform comes from, which she now uses as a warm jacket.
Putin should be sentenced to prison. That is all there is to say. For this horrific crime against the people and against Ukrainians, against our very own Ukrainian people. What is so bad about our Ukrainian people? What? They're wonderful, hardworking. We worked in the mine, and my son is a miner too.
To warm up a little, Larisa Petrovna goes down to the State Emergency Services Invincibility Point. For many days now, rescuers have been helping people cope with the aftermath of Russian shelling. They offer hot tea, cookies, and candies.
Today is the first time I've come here. My friend, I'm so grateful, asked me, Aliona, is your power out? I told her everything was, and she just said, come over. I said, is that allowed? Of course. I'm here to charge things for the kids. I tell them, I'm close. Everything will be charged soon.
We are so happy that this tent appeared here for us, because we went more than a day like this without electricity. And well, you can't even talk, not even on the phone. Relatives call asking, how are you? What's going on with you? My friends from Kharkiv are calling me.
Often, psychologists are on duty at such points. On particular days, the number of requests can easily climb up to several hundred.
Unfortunately, prolonged periods of hostilities deeply affect our mental health. Depression is steadily on the rise, and depression itself can often lead to a person stopping physical activity, neglecting basic self-care, and significantly increasing the risk of hypothermia. That's why it's so important to communicate with others and to continue doing the simple things you're used to doing every single day, even if they seem unnecessary to you right now. If you are able to seek professional help from a psychologist, that will also help you get through these tough times.
The points of invincibility have also become a source of warmth for Victoria's family. The temperature in their apartment dropped to 5 degrees Celsius.
We started coughing, I did, the kids did, and my husband is coughing too.
She still doesn't know where to go. If things get even worse than they are right now.
No, if we had the chance to leave, we would have already left. But we're still considering this as an option. My mom lives on the left bank, and it's no better there.
Now the heating in the building has been partially restored, but not in Victoria's apartment. They're using every life hack imaginable. As soon as the power comes on, they use the electric stove to the fullest.
This is how we're heating the kitchen now, just to get it at least like this. On my thermometer over there, I'll show you, it's plus 9 degrees. So we turn the oven on to the maximum, and then we wait like this until it heats up. And then we open it like this. Today, for example, I was cooking for an hour and a half, yes? Then it went up to 10 degrees. But now you see it's already 7 or 8.
To have something warm to drink during the day, Victoria fills a thermos with boiling water.
For example, I make compote and then I add boiling water for the kids, so it becomes warm instead of cold.
If there's electricity, the boiler heats up.
We wait until the hot water starts running, and then we fill it up like this. And then we take it, cover it with a blanket, and all sleep together so it's warmer. We're already looking up all sorts of things online, like how you can warm up with candles.
Makeshift stoves made from fireproof bricks running on gas. Heated cast iron roasting pans, candles in metal containers, or just leaving the gas on. Ukrainians are sharing these forced life hacks, but gas is nothing to joke about. Experts urge people to be extremely careful with such homemade heaters to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning.
If you live in an apartment building and have a gas connection, It is much easier to use hot water bottles or various other containers to boil your water. Then simply turn off the gas and stay together in one room. You can also make yourself a clever improvised tent or even use a regular camping tent to keep yourself warm, if it stays cold for a long period of time.
Residential complexes that have alternative sources of electricity and heat in their arsenal cope with power and heat outages more easily.
Extensive experience has already clearly shown that the most effective and promising method available is to use advanced storage systems with inverters for building-wide systems, which allow critical water pumps to keep working. For example, in my own building, specifically in the HOA where we recently installed this setup, the main life support systems basically keep running for at least 5 hours.
The Russian army, following the orders of the Kremlin dictator, is doing everything it can to push the situation in Ukraine's energy sector to a critical point. During these coordinated attacks on thermal power plants and electrical substations, they utilize not only combat drones, but also various ballistic and cruise missiles, high-speed Zircon and Kinjal missile systems, and multiple rocket launchers.
Last year alone, they carried out 612 targeted combined attacks on the energy sector. Now, the intensity is only increasing. Strikes are happening every day. There is not a single power plant left in Ukraine that has not been hit by enemy strikes during the war. Thousands of megawatts of generation have been knocked out. No one in the world has ever faced such a challenge.
Russia uses civilian terror as a war tactic. Putin's mouthpieces have announced it as a legitimate method of conducting war.
But now Russia does indeed have a very specific and strategic goal. Apparently, it is directly connected to achieving a widespread and prolonged power blackout during the winter, which could lead to the repeated freezing and thawing of essential public utility networks and their irreversible destruction. This catastrophic failure will have severe and lasting consequences for the population throughout the region for many years to come.
They are fully aware of the consequences of their crimes and are trying to scale them across all of Ukraine. The residents of Dnipro already have experience with a total blackout when the city was suddenly left without electricity, water, and heat. There were disruptions in mobile communications. Electric transport, including the metro, came to a halt. Medical institutions switched to backup power sources.
From 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., we worked on generators. During that time, 37 wounded were brought in and 26 surgeries were performed.
There was no electricity for almost a whole day, recalls Lyudmila.
The city went dark. The whole neighborhood plunged into darkness. The street lights went out. The water disappeared. The radiators slowly started to cool down. By morning, the radiators were already cold.
During that time, all the gadgets ran out of battery, especially those needed for work.
I had to go to the closest available supermarket. I fully charged my phone, and I charged the UPS.
Lyudmila shares her personal experiences on how to survive a very lengthy power outage.
4 power banks. 1 for the phone, 2 power banks. I can provide power to the uninterruptible internet connection and my laptop. In addition, I have a desk lamp setup that is also powered by a portable power bank.
Even simple string lights can come in handy.
There are models that can be powered from a power bank or even from batteries. For example, I have one currently hanging up in my bathroom.
But under systematic terror, you can't survive on resilience and ingenuity alone. Ukrainians are well aware of whom they owe, watching every day how energetically and selflessly the energy workers, water utility employees, and municipal services work, risking their health and, unfortunately, sometimes even their lives. I
am simply in complete awe of the dedicated people who work so hard to restore beauty to our homes. Our entire civilization, it's simply incredible. It's titanic. I am in awe of the people who go out into the freezing cold and clear the sidewalks, clear the roads. The water utility, their response is incredibly fast. Well, people are practically working 24/7.
These are not scenes from a Hollywood disaster movie. This is what thermal power plants actually look like after devastating Russian missile strikes. To restore the power system, dedicated energy specialists have to put forth truly superhuman efforts.
Every day there are new strikes. We try to restore as much as possible just to provide people with at least some heat. The weather is as bad as it gets. The dampness makes it impossible to work properly. Our hands are constantly cold, they're shaking. There have been times when we've stayed until late at night, and
this operation by the State Emergency Service divers is truly unique. 6 days in icy water at -15 degrees, they were patching up the flooded equipment at the thermal power plant. Now, in residential areas of the capital, where the situation with the lack of heat and electricity is critical, entire tent cities are being set up. In addition to the rescuers, people are being helped by humanitarian organizations such as World Central Kitchen, which brings hot food. The scale of the damage Russian shelling has inflicted upon the infrastructure of Ukraine's energy, housing, and utilities sector is something no one is prepared to estimate yet. Too many facilities have been severely damaged, and in some areas it is still far too unsafe to work. The consequences already look catastrophic.
There are a lot of videos online now. Pipes are bursting, radiators are bursting. All this water, for example, is running down the facades of new buildings. And this building just turns into a block of ice, corridors, stairways, everything is covered in ice. So restoring the building will be very difficult. All the structures will have to be completely restored. When a building begins to suffer from dampness over time, of course, it becomes completely covered in thick mold. That's moisture getting into the load-bearing structure and the floors, which then begin to crack and weaken, and that's it. The building could collapse at any given moment. Just how many buildings like this are there? How will the inspections be carried out? That's for you too.
The full cost hasn't even been calculated yet, because this includes the destruction of essential power and heating facilities, as well as the resources spent on backup and restoration. So the scale is huge. At this moment, we need to focus our efforts on preserving as much of our resources as we possibly can, making it through until summer, carefully working on any possible mistakes, or taking the necessary next steps to ensure a reliable supply of energy. We must make any and all attempts to destroy it futile.
Shelling of residential buildings and thermal power plants. Putin's army uses this as a tool of blackmail. Strikes on the energy sector and peaceful neighborhoods are an attempt to break the country with cold, darkness, and fear. There are absolutely no military objectives involved at all. This is pure terrorism directed against the civilian population in order to exert pressure on the authorities through their intense suffering.
We need to openly acknowledge that we are indeed victims of a Russian war crime. Essentially, they want to destroy us, deliberately during one of the harshest winters in the past 10 years. Russia planned the shelling, planned it for a long time, carefully, and more than once. They timed it with the weather, absolutely waited until the coldest frosts hit. To shell exclusively civilian infrastructure, the energy sector. To freeze the city, to bring it to the very brink of a man-made disaster so that the population would become much more willing to negotiate.
This is a deliberate and calculated criminal act aimed at achieving a strategic and absolute military advantage for the Russian Federation, as they publicly and explicitly declare in their official rhetoric, including a very recent statement, if I am not mistaken, made by the Kremlin press secretary Dmitry Peskov during a briefing. Russia will continue to resolve its issues by military means until Ukraine becomes more accommodating in the negotiation process.
Legal experts categorize the actions of the occupying nation's forces, not just as a war crime, but as a crime against humanity.
This is quite specifically an attack on the civilian population, which is entirely innocent and in no way directly involved in any active military operations and is protected by all international conventions. They cannot be the target of an attack, and there is no justification for this anymore. When a decision on punishment is handed down in international courts, primarily within the International Criminal Court at The Hague, the foundational Rome Statute, as is widely known, provides for either a term of imprisonment for up to 30 years or a sentence of life imprisonment. This sentencing is reserved precisely for crimes against humanity, of course, depending entirely on the comprehensive body of evidence presented to the court.
The body of evidence has existed for a long time, and it is more than sufficient. On June 24th, 2024, the pre-trial chamber of the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Sergei Shoigu, former Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, and Valery Gerasimov, Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, as well as for the top commanders of the Black Sea Fleet and the Russian Air Force. They
are accused not only of war crimes, but also of crimes against humanity, specifically in connection with the shelling of Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
Vladimir Putin will also face his own indictment and a verdict as well. Yes, and the entire aggressor state will have to pay the price for its brutality.
Death is too easy an option. I would like to see a trial. And not just for the president of the Russian Federation, but for everyone who was involved in this. I would like Russians to be held accountable as a nation so that they, Once the Germans spent years eradicating this internal racism, there absolutely must be reparations. Because what they did to our energy system, I honestly do not even know how much money, how many billions of dollars would be needed just to bring it back to its pre-war state. They must rebuild our cities. They must restore my hometowns in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. But there must be a trial. And I wouldn't say that I'm in favor of a lenient sentence.
Holodomor is a deliberate and calculated torment of peaceful people. When residential buildings are shelled in the bitter cold, when the lights go out and the radiators grow cold, the goal is obvious. These are not military targets, but the lives of defenseless people. And this simply cannot be hidden behind dishonest claims of collateral damage. This is murder. People are suffering from the freezing cold and may die not on the battlefield, but in their own homes. All of this is the direct consequence of Putin's cold-blooded order to use winter as a weapon and civilians as targets. And the responsibility here is not abstract, not collective, it is deeply personal and individual. Olga Mikhailiuk, Sofia Kutsenko, Special Report.